Hey y'all, it's Chris and Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks. I have put together a beans video. Everybody loves beans. It's that good time of year when they're good and comfort food to warm you up and got plenty of protein. But now we're going to start out with an easy one that has some canned beans. We're going to get started with my pork and beans. And I think you're going to love it. First thing you're going to do is get you some pork ribs. Now these are country style ribs, Chris said. He went and got them for me. They got some bones in them. And this is rib rub. This is actually Chris's recipe, and you can find it online under sauces and spices and seasonings. And I'm going to coat them good with it. And this is my little flipping food fork that is absolutely wonderful. If you've not got you one, I'm going to tell you, it's the best money you'll ever spend. Even when they're not on sale, you'll be so glad you got you one for your kitchen. Now this time, I'm going to put a good bit on this side, and then we're going to try to use what's left in the bottom to get them good and coated. I just didn't want to get my hands dirty that first time. We're going to go ahead and spray an air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer, you're going to use just a regular baking sheet. You can put them up on like a cookie rack and line it in the bottom so you don't have to clean it if you want to. And you're going to broil them for about 10 minutes till they're nice and toasty. But today we're going to put them in the air fryer. It's going to be a shortcut, and it's going to be quicker as well. All right. So I'm going to take these ribs. You can see they're nice and coated with his rib rub. And I'm going to place them in the air fryer. So I'm going to put them on the steak setting, and I'll tell you what that temperature is in just a second. Let me rinse my hands off. A lot of y'all are snowed in right now, so it's a good time to make you some beans. All right, we're going to place this in the air fryer, and I'm going to put it on the steak setting. It's 400 degrees for 6 minutes. We'll cook them for 6 minutes, then I'm going to flip them, and I'll probably cook them 6 more minutes. All right. We're going to turn these. And it's so full, it's going to take me a minute, to get them good and toasty. Now, if you want to, you can sear these in a pan. That's absolutely fine. But the only thing about doing that is that they have sugar on them with the rib rub. So you're going to have to sear them on a medium heat, not a high heat, or the sugar will burn. So just remember that. Okay, y'all. So I'm using slow cooker liners because it's easy cleanup. If you're going to use the crock pot or slow cooker, why not use a liner? And I think this is the only recipe that's a slow cooker in this series I'm showing y'all today. I've already got it turned on because for some reason it takes mine a while to heat up. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to put your ribs in the bottom. And you're going to just pick them up, put them in the bottom. Now, these ribs, of course, have fat on them. And when this gets done cooking, the fat will be on the top. And if you don't want to eat the fat, you can take paper towels and absorb some of it. That's up to you. But you want your meat on the bottom. These got a lot of meat on them. These are good-looking ribs. Now what we're going to do is put everything in a bowl and pour it over the top of it. That's so simple, ain't it? So you're going to be using a cup of water, hot water, a can of black beans, juice and all. Now, if you want to rinse them because they are dark, you can, but we don't fool with it. Can of PINTO pork and beans. I like bean camps when it comes to pork and beans. I'll buy off-brand beans, but my pork and beans has to be Van Camp's. And then there's a can of kidney beans. And if you want to, you can see you got a red bean, you got a light bean, and you got a black bean. So it's really pretty. All right, and then you're going to put in some liquid smoke, an 1/8 teaspoon. That's quite just a little bit. It don't take much of it. So I'm just going to put a splash of it in here. Liquid smoke. If you've never used it, it makes stuff taste like it come out of the smoker. You don't want to overdo it because you don't want it to be overdone with the liquid smoke. And I think we're going to have some cabbage tonight. I think I'm going to save some of this onion to go in my cabbage. We don't normally eat onion in our cabbage, but I think I will tonight. All this is simple ingredients. And of course, if you got some leftover beans that you've made, by all means use them. Now you're just going to stir this up good. Get that liquid smoke in there. You're probably wondering, why are you stirring it? Why do you take the time to do that when you're just going to dump it over the ribs? I just wanted to get that liquid smoke all in there evenly instead of it being in one spot in the pot, okay? Because if you just sprinkle it in there, then it lands in one little location. And I wanted it to, and it smells smoky. Make sure if you want to taste it, you can taste it. I don't know. I might add just a tiny bit more. It's up to you how much to put in it, okay?
When do you put the barbecue sauce in? At the end?
Oh, right now.
Because that'll burn.
No, you put it in here.
Okay.
All right, I'm supposed to use 1.5 cups of barbecue sauce and I about forgot. I had this company send me some barbecue sauce, and it's out of Louisville, Kentucky, and manufactured by Bluegrass Superior Foods for Clear Folk Barbecue Company in Williamsburg, Kentucky. We're going to give it a try today. I've had it for a while. I just haven't tried it. It's really sweet, but it's got a good flavor. And then I'm just going to use some Sweet Baby Ray's. Chris likes this one. It's called Sweet and Spicy. And of course, we have our own barbecue sauce recipe. If you want to give it a try, we need to make some. We just haven't made it in a while. All right, now I'm going to mix this up. And that might have some smoked flavor in it too, to add to the pork and beans. Yeah, everybody thinks pork and beans. This is pork and beans. Well, this is Tammy's pork and beans. All right, let's get it in here. It's pretty. We're going to cook this on high for 4 hours. Or if you cook it on low, you got to cook it all day. All right? And we will see y'all when it gets done. We make us a good old plate. All right, guys. This is ready. And we're going to stew up some cabbage and have with it. But I'm going to show you how it looks. Open it up. It really don't look like it's got a lot of grease on the top. But now, if you want to, you can take a paper towel. You can tell that's grease right there. And you can soak up some of it. Another way you could make this healthier if you want, I mean, you know, if that's a big deal to you, is to make it a day ahead and let it cool down. Put it in something to refrigerate it, and then all of the fat would get congealed and hard, and then you would just take it off the top and then warm it. And this is what I call pork and beans. Not the kind that come out of a can, but a nice big hunk of pork and beans. And if you want it to be thicker, you know, then you could cook it on the stovetop instead of in a crock pot, and a lot of the juice would boil out of it, and it would be a little more gravy-like. That's totally up to you too. We like it just like this. It's absolutely delicious. The pork is super tender, full of flavor. It's quite, got a lot of heat to it from Chris's pork rub. It tastes really good. That pork rub stays on there. It's still all over the meat. You can see it because we didn't really touch it once we put it in that crock pot. So it's not like all that gets washed off of there. And it really is delicious. So get ready for the next bean video. This is all about beans. We all love them. I love to bake baked beans on the stovetop because it's quicker and it doesn't heat up the house as much in the summertime. And you usually have a lot of baked beans in the summer when you're grilling out. So this is a great alternative to having to put a casserole in the oven for an hour. And it's delicious. It's just as good. Chris loves it. Okay, so you're gonna start out with about 4 pieces of bacon. I've got a very thick sliced bacon, so I'm using 2 pieces. And I'm just gonna cut it into little cubes. And we're gonna fry it up in the skillet with my peppers and onions. So I've chopped up some onion, about a 1/4 cup, and I've chopped up a few tablespoons of bell pepper. We're just chopping up this delicious bacon, and we're gonna throw it all in there and let it start browning in the skillet. And it's good and hot. I'm gonna put a little olive oil in it. Yes, it's smoking. The bacon in there, your onion, your pepper. This is really good, easy, simple, and it sure does a few minutes. Then all we're gonna do is add some beans and barbecue sauce. That's all there is to it. It's simple. All right. See you in a few minutes. My recipe tells you to put in an 1/8 cup of butter, and I don't really tell you where to put it, so just throw it in there. Either throw it in there while you're browning your veggies or towards the end. Either way, it's going to make it taste good because there's nothing better than good old butter. And you're going to cook these until that bacon starts to brown. Now don't that look good? Telling you, if you make these baked beans, they're so simple to make and so easy and quick. This is the way you'll make them from now on. And if you just gotta put them in the oven, what you could do is make them in a skillet like I'm doing today instead of a pot, and just throw them in the oven. If you don't want to let them sit and simmer, if you don't have time in the kitchen. Boy, don't that look good? Okay, our bacon is nice and toasty brown. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty. Now, you're going to add a whole can of baked beans, original, not pork in or any special flavorings, because you got all this good stuff in the pot already. And if you want to, you can use pork and beans. Now we're going to add some barbecue sauce. And you're going to add about a 1/2 cup of barbecue sauce. We're using Sweet Baby Ray's, and we're using the sweet and spicy tonight. Chris loves sweet and spicy. That's about a 1/2 cup. Now, if you're using barbecue sauce, there's no need in adding the brown sugar and the mustard and all of that because it's in the barbecue sauce. So, you use your favorite barbecue sauce. This is supposed to be simple and easy. An easy way to make some baked beans for dinner or a cookout real fast on the stove top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these sit here, and you can tell they're already pretty thick. And you can taste them if you want to and see if you want to add a little more barbecue sauce. And we're going to turn them down on low, and we're going to let them sit there and simmer just like they were boiling in the oven. Now, if they were in the oven at 350 degrees, it takes them a while to start boiling, and look at here. On the stove top, it's pretty much instant. They're already simmering, just like they would in the oven, and the bacon's in there already. So yummy yum. We will see y'all when it's time to make a plate, because these beans, they're done. See you then. All right, Mr. Master of Baked Beans said he was going to add a little bit more barbecue sauce after he tasted it. Tell them what you think about these stovetop baked beans, Chris.
They're good. They're as good as any baked bean I've ever had out of the oven. I'll put it that way. And what's cool about baked beans is you can just throw whatever in there. I mean, you let your mind go wherever it wants to. Throw anything in there you want to get. It's good.
All right, these beans get done pretty quick. You need to watch them and don't let them stick, okay? Because they're already pretty thick. So it doesn't take a long time to get them good and warm and ready. We're gonna dip some out, and I'm gonna show you how good they look. Now, it's just me and Chris, so one of those large cans of beans is plenty to serve 1 to 4 people. And I've already been in here to taste them, and they're really good. I'm not real crazy about spicy barbecue, but this barbecue sauce is really good. It's not real hot. It's just got a little bit of kick to it, and it's really delicious. And I'm gonna tell you, it's some good stuff. All right, I've started with half my onion. So today we're gonna brown some Swaggerty Farms hot sausage. I'm gonna turn on the skillet and get this in here. And we're gonna brown it up nice. We'll use our hamburger separator too while we're browning it. Get it nice and separated. Okay, this is our soaked red beans, and they do need to be covered with water. Make sure they're good and covered before you soak them overnight. And I didn't put anything in these beans. There's no salt, no bouillon, nothing. And that's how I was able just to, let it soak on the countertop, on top of the stove overnight. And we're gonna pour this into our crock pot bag. And I'm making these, you can tell, it's got all the good stuff in the bottom. I'm gonna rinse it out and put a little bit of it in here. That's the good stuff in the bottom. You want it too. All right, so what you're gonna do now is we're gonna cook these in a crock pot, and if it's in the winter time, of course you can get out your Dutch oven and let it heat up the house while it's cooking on the stove. But since it's summertime, we are going to make it in the crock pot today. All right, now we're gonna get this sausage and we're gonna put it in our beans, and I'm gonna try to leave a little bit of oil in the bottom of the skillet if there's any in there for our onion and our pepper. Well, there's really not going to be much, but that's okay. That's even better, because then you don't have to worry about draining it. So there's not a lot of fat on this sausage. You can tell once it comes out of the skillet how it looks. There's enough juice in these onions and peppers that it will deglaze this pan. So there's really no need in you adding any more oil to it at this point, okay? So we're going to put in our peppers. So I've let those sit there for a minute, and then we're gonna start moving them around, and they're gonna get all those juicy bits off the bottom of the skillet and go into our red beans. And boy, is it gonna be good over some delicious rice. We'll start up that rice, but it only takes it about 20 minutes. So we'll start up the rice before we eat supper. This is something you can do during the day in the crock pot. See, it's already wanting to come up off the bottom. So just get you something that's flat so that you can deglaze it with the juices from these onions. Now, I've tried their hot sausage yet. You know, I'm a huge fan of their sausage, but we always get the mild, and I'm gonna give this hot a try. It's delicious. It's just the perfect amount of heat. It's not too hot to burn you up, but boy is it good. Y'all are going to love Swaggerty sausage. If you don't know where to get it, you can go online and order it direct from them, and they'll ship it to you frozen. So there's also a link on there where you can find out where it's sold locally near you. So take a look at that today. We're going to put in a clove of garlic. Of course, it's optional, but now I'm even going to put mine through the garlic press to give it a good, strong flavor of garlic. Now look, if y'all want it to be really hot, like Louisiana style hot, you might want to add some Tabasco or hot sauce, whatever you like, your favorites. Let's get these peppers and onions in here. It only took a minute to do that because I didn't add any oil or nothing to it. Well, that looks good, don't it? So now it's got the garlic in there, and we're gonna mix it up good with our beans. So make sure those beans get that good flavor in them. So I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of beef bouillon in here. We're gonna stir it up, and then I'm gonna taste it and see if I need to add another teaspoon of salt, because it just says salt to taste, and we want to make sure and get enough salt in these beans. The sausage, of course, has salt in it, and it tastes really good, but the beans have to be salted too. Yeah. I'm going to put in a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to stir it up and get this in the crock pot and put it on high, because we're going to eat it for supper. And make sure you soak those beans. If you don't, they're not going to get done. All right? We'll see y'all when we get ready to put our rice together for our red beans. I'm super excited to try these beans. We have been smelling them, and they smell so good. Now, it took them a long time to get soft in this crock pot. I actually had to cook them for 8 hours. And it may even take longer, it's according to how long you soaked your beans. So what I did is I actually picked this up last night. I let it cool down. I picked it up and put it in the refrigerator, and then I put it back in here again today. So you've got to cook this until your beans are done. Now, it won't take as long on the stovetop, but I didn't want to watch it, because then you got to worry about it scalding or burning. Don't burn the beans, you know, Mama always did. So be careful. Use the crock pot, or even you could use your Instapot as well on the multi-grain setting. All right, so we're going to serve this up over rice. This is red beans and rice. Now, the original recipe said that you could add some cubed ham to it as well, but with times like they are today, I just used the sausage. And of course, I wanted to showcase the sausage today. But if you get that ham, buy one, get one free. Lots of times that diced ham is buy one, get one free. This is a good meal to feed the family. And hopefully you can get your hands on some Swaggerty sausage, because it tastes so good. Now, I made some rice, and I toast my rice in a little bit of olive oil, lightly toast it before I add the water. And it makes it nice and separated like that. It just makes a really pretty rice. But you don't have to rinse it or anything. All right, and now we're going to put this on top of it. I probably should have got a bigger spoon. And then we'll put some juice in it. You want plenty of juice in it as well. Okay? Don't that look good, y'all? I'm gonna tell you, it is good and it smells good in the house while it's cooking. All right, it's got a ½ pound of ground beef. It's got bacon. It's got brown sugar, barbecue sauce, chili powder, ketchup, mustard, 4 cans of beans, butter beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, and Great Northern. If you don't have the Great Northern, you can always use pork and beans. And then a chopped up onion, and that's it. But it's going to be good. And we're going to get started. We're going to start browning our ground beef over here. So here's our bacon, and we're going to chop it. So it's a ½ pound of ground beef, and it's a ½ pound of bacon. All right, we're going to get this in our pan. Oh, it smells so good. I'm so hungry today. And spread that out. Chris said some of y'all's been asking about this wooden spoon, flat spoon, and it is on the website. If you want to go take a look under our, you can just go to Shop Now tab at the top and click utensils, and you'll be able to find that. All right? And I think I'm going to go ahead and throw some onion in there with it. Why not? Everything can cook at one time. And if we have a lot of grease, we're going to drain some of it, of course. So while that's cooking, I'm going to bring the rest of my ingredients over here because we're just going to mix everything up in this. That's why I chose this large skillet. So you're going to open 4 cans of beans. Start mixing this up. I'm going to turn the heat up to high because I want my bacon good and crispy and brown. Now this is a hex-clad pan. It's a Gordon Ramsay special. I got it during Prime Day. It is on the website as well. It's a large one. But of course you don't have to get one this big. Crunchy but not burnt. So I'm going to go ahead and get me a spoon and start getting out some of this bacon. The crunchy ones. The ones that's done, good and done. Some of them are doner than others. But that's how it goes. Then we're going to drain it and start adding our ingredients. Get this in the oven. All right, there's our bacon. I'm going to turn it down on low. And we're going to get some of this grease out of here. Now, if you wanted to, you could save it. But I'm not going to save this grease because it's got hamburger and bacon grease in it. So I like to save a little bit of bacon grease, but not hamburger grease. Not interested in that at all. All right, we're going to leave a little bit in there and make it good. Now we're going to start adding our ingredients. We'll start with the beans, and it'll quit smoking for y'all. 4 cans. These are Great Northerns. Butter beans are my favorite. You can use whatever you like. Kidney beans. Pinto beans. And you use juice and all, y'all. 1/3 cup of brown sugar. You're going to use 1/4 cup of barbecue sauce, your favorite. Mine's Sonny's. Chris has a really good barbecue sauce as well, but his is a little spicier than I like. But you can always leave out the cayenne and it wouldn't be. And then you're going to use 1/4 cup. You're going to use 1/4 cup of ketchup. 1/4 cup. All right, ½ teaspoon of chili powder. 1 teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to make it a ½ teaspoon of pepper. and a teaspoon of salt. And last but not least, a tablespoon of yellow mustard. There you have it. Mustard's my favorite. We are making Old Settlers beans today. We're going to mix these up. Do a good job mixing, I would imagine. You can tell if you mixed it good if all your beans are just all over the place. You got them all mixed up good. It's nice to use different colors of beans because it makes it pretty. All right, I'm going to sprinkle this bacon on top of this. And then we're going to slide it in the oven. I got the oven on 350. This is going to cook for 2 hours. So a lot of this juice will probably come out of these. Okay, I'm going to get this in the oven. It's a nice pan of beans, ain't it? All right, we'll see y'all in a couple of hours. We'll dig in. All right, we're getting out our beans. They smell so good. And I'm actually hungry. And boy, they look pretty and glazed over the top. Yummy. Chris said he had some beans kind of like this the other night at the, what was it? It was a final party for their fishing club. And he said that this reminded him, did they have ground beef in it? Mm-hmm. And it had bacon. Yes. And it was mixed beans. Okay, there's so many different names for this, y'all. There's Western beans, there's cowboy beans, there's calico beans. This one's called Old Settlers beans, and they're very similar to each other. So I'm not sure what you called it or what your mama called it. You can let us know, but it's the same concept, all right? And they're a little bit fancier than just my regular baked beans. I do baked beans on the stovetop. Fast. If you want to know how I make just my regular baked beans, you can take a look at that. Mine do have bell pepper in them, and this doesn't. And mine don't have, of course, the meats in it. But you can take a look at that. And we're going to dig into this and give it a try. So I'm digging in here just to let you see how pretty it is underneath there. Boy, it looks good, don't it? So let's get us out a dish. Okay, now you can see when it was in the oven, it kind of got a glazed over look. So any of the onions that were left on the top, the bacon and stuff, it's going to have a really good flavor. And I did leave the bacon on the top just because I didn't want it to get down in all that liquid and get rubbery. All right, today we are going to make some good old pinto beans. Nothing better than pinto beans. And you can tell a difference in a pinto bean and whether it's a good pinto by how dark they are. So these are nice and light and pretty. You don't want to buy a bag of beans that have a bunch of dark beans. And to tell you the truth, the Goya brand is typically a little cleaner as well. So the beans are not as dirty and full of dirt as the ones that are the off-brands. Pinto beans are super easy to make. What people do most of the time is they make the mistake of trying to boil them the day that they want to eat them. And if you do decide to do that and you want to boil them at a higher temperature, make sure you don't add the salt. You can add salt if you're going to soak them and simmer them. You just do not need to add salt if you're going to cook them at a high temperature, or it will make the whole of the bean tough. All right? Simple dimple. Now, I am going to just look these right quick. So as you pour them into your pot, you just want to kind of look them and see if there's any clumps, rocks, anything like that, or really dirty or ugly beans, like this one's an ugly one. And try to catch them as they're going in. It's not going to hurt anybody necessarily if you don't. Now, a rock would probably hurt somebody if they bit into it. So you want to make sure and not get those in there. Now, you're going to rinse your beans. And I typically just run them with hot water, slosh them. And if I've got a good brand of bean, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I don't always pour off the water. Now you can tell by looking at this water, it's still clean. That's the difference in a Goya brand bean or a Camilla or the better brands of beans compared to a store brand. But you're going to be able to tell because like when you pick up beans and you look at them, lots of times if you get the store brand or a cheaper brand, they just really dirty. And I mean dirty. But these are pretty clean, you can tell. And if you've got a bean that's pretty clean, you don't have to drain it. But I'll drain it for you guys. So you just want to drain your beans. And some people rinse them more than once. I don't. This is how I do my beans, all right? So you don't always have to, this is for 16 ounces of beans. It's in my first cookbook, and I have different methods of cooking on the recipe. Now you don't have to always add meat to beans to make them taste good. And if you're going to soak them overnight, especially if you plan to do like your granny did and leave them on the stove, do not put any meat in there, okay? Make sure you don't. Don't put your meat in until the day that you're going to cook them. So I add a little oil. If you want to know how much, you can look at the recipe. This is for 16 ounces of beans. I add a vegetable bouillon, which is a Knorr brand. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to, but it's good, okay? And then I add beef bouillon. It's my favorite for pintos. If I'm making a lighter bean, like a butter bean or a navy bean, then I like to use chicken. But for pintos, I like to use a beef. Okay, that was beef bouillon. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little salt and pepper to them. And you're going to want to add water until it's about 2 knuckles deep over the bean. Now, my sister used this recipe, y'all, and she made like 3 pounds of beans. And she went, Tammy, it said 2 knuckles high. And I said, Melissa, that was for 16 ounces of beans. That's what the recipe said. So if you're going to use 3 times that many beans, then you got to add that many knuckles. Okay? So just giving you a heads up on that when you're wanting about 2 knuckles high over your beans when you're just doing a 16-ounce bag. All right? Other than that, you're going to have to add a little more extra water because these beans are going to soak up the water and it's going to make a difference. So you can look in here. You're just going to kind of slosh them around and get them about equal. And you can tell I don't quite have enough water in there. And it doesn't matter what pot you're using. You just need to have it about 2 knuckle high. That's really close. Then you're going to put them on the stove. This is actually my green bean pot, okay? And you're going to bring it to a boil. So go ahead and put the lid on it. But don't go too far because once it starts to boil, you don't want it to boil over. And once it comes to a boil, I'm going to take the lid off of it. You can put a wooden spoon over the top so it don't boil over if you want to. And you're going to boil it for 20 minutes. We're going to slide them to the back of the stove. And y'all, I can guarantee you one thing. These are going to be delicious without any meat in them. But you can always add that meat if you really like it the next day. After you get it out of the refrigerator, then put your meat in. But you definitely don't want meat in your beans and them sitting out too long, okay? Okay, I tell you to use a ½ teaspoon of pepper, and I tell you to use 2 teaspoons of salt, which is a lot of salt, especially with that bouillon in there. So I think I'm going to use half of it. Usually they turn out perfect, but you always want to, you can add half of the salt if you want to, and then add the other half after they cook. Whatever you want to do, of course, salt is by taste on any recipe. So keep that in mind. And we're going to get these to boil in about forgotten salt and pepper. All right, this is in 5 minutes. They have been sitting on the stove 5 minutes, and so they came to a boil pretty quick because I had a lid on them. So now I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. Okay, my timer is about to go off. You can see they still have water in them. You're going to turn them off, put your lid on them, slide them to the back of the stove, and let them sit there until you go to bed. And before you put them in the refrigerator, you'll make sure they're covered in water. All right, the pintos are ready to bring to a simmer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn them on. You can go ahead and taste your beans and see if they've got enough salt in them at this point. And just make sure that you don't boil them on high, and they should be delicious. Okay, this is a 10.25 inch skillet. It's nice and seasoned. It's pretty old. But even if you don't have a real seasoned skillet, you can still make some good cornbread. So take you some shortening and do a good job greasing it. And make sure your shortening's not old. If you open up your shortening and you've had it a while and you smell it and it smells bad, it's going to make your food taste bad too, okay? So now what we do is we put just a little bit of cornmeal in here, and this helps the cornbread be crunchy when you get it out. A lot of people think they got to heat their skillets up and stuff, but you don't have to. If you just do this, I'm telling you, you'll have some good cornbread. Hey, there's nothing better that goes with pintos than cornbread. And I make the best cornbread around because I use White Lily buttermilk cornmeal mix. This is what the bag looks like at the grocery store. A lot of y'all probably use it. I love it. It makes delicious cornbread. I put a lot of butter in my cornbread, and that makes it good too. So we're going to get started right now with our cornbread. So we use 3/4 cup of butter, and I go ahead and I melt it in the microwave. And don't put your egg in there while it's hot, or it's liable to cook it. Get that in there good. And now we're going to add buttermilk. Now I tell you about 1.5 cups of whole buttermilk, but it may not take as much of thinner buttermilk. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to use 2 cups of White Lily buttermilk cornmeal mix. Making cornbread is simple, and boy is it good, especially when you're having some beans. We'll go ahead and add 1.5 cups. And this is whole buttermilk or a thicker buttermilk. Not everybody can get it. So if you can't get it, that's fine. Use low fat. Some brands are better than others with the low fat. Some are actually pretty creamy, even if they're low fat, and then some are not. You'll just have to shop around and try the different brands until you find one you really like. So you're just going to mix this up good. And it should be kind of wet. Make sure you get all the cornmeal off the sides and bottom of your bowl and get it in there good. Okay, we're going to get this in the skillet and get it in the oven at 425 degrees. Okay, our cornbread is done. We're going to get it out of the oven, and I'm going to flip it and let you see how beautiful it turned out. Now I got it nice and brown, and that way it'll be super crunchy and absolutely delicious with our pinto beans. So get you a round plate, and as soon as it comes out of the oven, you're going to flip it upside down on the plate. It should come right out, just like that, and it should be nice and crunchy on the top. Nothing better than a good piece of cornbread that's nice and hot. Let me show you how good it looks. Now it's piping hot out of the oven. And that's when it's really good with some butter. Looks good, don't it? I must confess that we've already ate some of our beans that I made. Because the kids came over the same night I put them on to simmer. So today for lunch, what we're going to do is I'm going to add this butter in here. And just enough to brown some diced ham. And we're going to put it in our pintos and have it with cornbread for lunch. Today's a football day. Chris is fishing. It's Saturday. And so what we're going to do is just melt some of this butter in here. And we're going to add a pack of diced ham. So we're just going to brown up this ham and put it in our delicious beans that we made. And I'm going to tell you, them beans are something else. Delicious. While that's getting brown, I'm going to pour my beans up over here in a skillet to warm them. Since it's already dirty from making the cornbread. There's my beans. It made a really nice dark broth. See how dark the broth is? I made them just like you saw me make them. I didn't put anything different in them. And that's how they turned out. And I just had some of this. Lots of times you can get this cube diced ham at a very good price. Lots of times it's on sale. And you can deglaze this a little bit and add it to the beans if you want to. It's got a lot of flavor. I think I will. So all I did is add just a dab of water to it. See all that brown, those brown delicious bits from the ham? We're going to get that in the beans too. Now I like ham in my beans, but I personally do not like bacon. So we're going to let these heat up a minute and cook down a little bit so that they're just a little bit thicker, and then we're going to eat them with our cornbread. It's going to be real good. All right, I think they're ready. I'm going to turn them off and pour some up. All right, y'all. We're going to get us some pinto beans. I know that a lot of y'all use your crock pot when you make your pinto beans, and they never just come out just right. And I'm going to tell you, if you do what I ask you to do, they're going to be delicious. So, even if you want to put them in the crock pot, use my ingredients and give it a try. By rinsing our beans, we're going to use 1 can of dark and 1 can of light, and that way it'll be pretty. So I'm rinsing them too. We're just going to put them in our bowl. This is a super fast and easy salad. The thing that's the most time consuming is just chopping up your onion, celery, and bell pepper. All right. Let's get on over here to the table and we'll finish up. You are going to chop up a bell pepper, a small onion, and 4 stalks of celery. And I just used the celery hearts for this. So all this goes in. I might need a bigger bowl before it's over. Okay. And then you're going to take 3 eggs and chop them, boiled eggs. I've had this egg chopper forever. It's a Pampered Chef. Okay. 2 tablespoons of mayo. I'm going to let them be heaping tablespoons. A dash of sugar, a good dash, and then a dash of salt and pepper. Dash of salt. I'm going to put just a little bit more pepper in mine. Okay? And then you just mix it up. Boy, ain't that easy. Now, I'm going to read about this recipe. Let me read about it right quick. This was sent to me from Mark Allen Markwell. He says, he's seen my sister Leanne, and he remembers this from his childhood Thanksgiving, and he looked forward to it. I always looked forward to this side dish salad that my dad actually made. The only time we ever had it was once a year at Thanksgiving, and it is bean salad. It's hard to believe a kid would look forward to this, but you know, his daddy made it, so maybe it was really special to him, and he looked forward to it every year, and he was just a kid. So we're going to mix this up and give it a try. I thought, man, if a kid likes it, it must be a pretty good salad. So, Mark, I'm going to see what I think about your dad's dish. Now, you know, this holiday season, I'm making a lot of dishes from the viewers. And so, I've got quite a few in. But if you have a favorite family dish like this one that you actually looked forward to eating during the holidays, you send it to me, and I will see if I can't get it on here for you. That's all there is to this one. It's pretty. All right. I'm going to get me a spoon and give it a try. That's how simple it is. Bean salad. That's what his daddy called it. All right, let's give it a taste. Here we go, Mark. It's good. It's really good. Got a bunch of crunch to it. The beans just give it more of a, to me, a meaty flavor. It's just really good and good for you too, because it don't really have a lot of mayonnaise in it. So this is a great dish to have on your Thanksgiving table for a salad. You know, we really need to eat more salad than we do on Thanksgiving. So we just want to thank Mark Maxwell for sending this in to us. Let me see if I can't make it clean and pretty, Mark. It's a pretty dish. The eggs are really good in it too. It's really delicious. Will you try it, Chris?
Sure.
Okay. Let me get you a new spoon. Alrighty. See what the man thinks about it.
We'll go heavy on the beans. I was gonna blow on it, but it ain't hot.
Well, no.
That's good.
It is good, ain't it?
I mean, it'll be real good, you know, with all the other stuff
I know.
that goes on to it too. Get a bite of that. Man,
It's delicious. It really is delicious.
I'm surprised.
I know.
I was kind of doubtful,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Well, we like it, Mark. Good job. Your daddy done a good salad. And this is absolutely delicious. And so we'll save it and have it for our Thanksgiving meal this Tuesday coming up. I'm sure it's delicious even after it sits in the refrigerator and marinates a little bit too.
Probably even better.
I bet it is. He says that you refrigerate it for 2 hours.
Okay.
So at the end of the recipe, Mark says to refrigerate it for 2 hours. And it's It's actually delicious before you even do that. I'm so enjoying these viewer recipes because they're really different. And me and Chris are getting to try a lot of new foods, and it's really exciting. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we thank you for watching Cotton Valley Cooks.